Hello, my love. So I intend by the end of this video that you will walk away with a brand new self-concept. So make sure you watch to the end. I am Beyond Taylor, and I am here to help you go beyond your self-imposed limitations. So today we are going to talk about a very fun topic, which is self-concept. Now, when we talk about self-concept, what comes to your mind? Usually it's like the conception that you have about yourself. So do you have a self-concept of someone who is wealthy? Or do you have a self-concept of someone who is living in survival? Do you have a self-concept of someone who attracts loving relationships? Or do you have a self-concept of someone who is always in toxic relationships? Do you have a self-concept that you are worthy to receive whatever you desire? Or is your self-concept about the fact that you have to work really, really hard in order to get what you want? This is typically what we think about when we think about self-concepts. But that is not what we are going to be talking about today. Today we are going to be talking about the true self, not the self that's composed of beliefs and ideas. That is the small self with a lowercase s. Today we are going to be talking about the big self, capital S self. And that's how you are going to shift your self-concept, by recognizing that you are not your limitations. You are, in fact, the perceiver of said limitations. So the way that I wanted to present this was through an example. Do you see this piece of paper? Let's imagine that this is the big self. This is who you are. And let's imagine that it has no borders. Just use your imagination to imagine this paper as infinite. There's no way for you to see where it begins or ends. This is who you are. This is what your entire world is. But it doesn't appear that way, does it? No, it appears to be in components. I appear to be over here, and you appear to be over there watching me. If you look around your room right now, what you'll notice is that it's a bunch of objects in space. A bunch of objects. So how could it all just be one thing? And how could it be you? Because, as you can see, imagine this is infinite. What has happened, or what appears to have happened, because everything is interconnected. But what appears is that everything is, again, in components. So we started off with the single sheet, which is the big S. And then the big S appears to be separate. Does it take away from the fact that even though the paper appears to be separate, that it's not still just this one big thing? Let's take it a step further. So let's say this paper is green. This paper is orange. We got green and orange. Now we're going to have purple. And last but not least, let's have blue. Get these markers out of my way. Now, even though I didn't color the whole thing, because who has the time? Maybe next time I'll have flashcards. But even though these papers appear to be different because of the colors, essentially it's the same thing. The same goes for you and your environment. It appears to be different shapes, sizes, textures. People seem to look different. Eyes look different than you. But underneath it all, it's the same paper. I don't care that this is blue. I don't care that this is orange. I don't care that this is purple. And I don't care that this is green. It's the same thing underneath it. Let's say the blue paper goes on to go live with other blue papers, and it adopts the beliefs and attitudes and assumptions about reality that the blue paper has. Same thing goes for the orange paper. Same thing goes for the purple paper. Same thing goes for the green one. And now the green and the purple begin to fight over ideas, over beliefs, because it's forgetting that underneath it all, it's the same exact thing. It just is appearing differently so that it can have the experience of, well, what's your experience like green paper, and what's your experience like purple paper? I feel like I'm kind of dragging this, but y'all get the point. Underneath it all, it's the same exact thing. The same exact thing. So But if all the purple paper knows is what it was indoctrinated with its beliefs, ideas, and assumptions about reality, it's going to take itself to be this, and then it's going to work hard. Let's say it feels like being a blue paper is better. It has a desire to be blue because blue equals wealth and abundance and happiness and love. It's going to work hard to change itself to the blue. Instead of just recognizing that it's only this. And that's what I'm trying to convey to you. You are working so hard to change your concept of yourself through your beliefs and ideas and actions. That is a small part of shifting your self-concept. I want to compare it to like working out. When you want to work on your physique, working out is literally only 20% of what's actually going to get you the results that you want. The 80% is your diet. The same thing goes when it comes to shifting your self-concept. 20% are the actions that you are taking. 80% is your diet, is your mental diet. Better than that, I would say, is what you're identifying as. So if you're identifying as the small self, then you feel like there's so much that you have to do in order to shift your self-concept. Majority of shifting your self-concept comes through grace. There's not much that you can do, which is why you only have like 20%. But because, and this is my issue with the self-development world, because individuals feel like that it's on them, right? And I get it, right? Take full accountability for your reality and all those things, but they're still talking to the small self. So the small self is limited. It's only so much that the small self can do. But when it remembers that it's not it's not purple, it's the paper. And even though it appears to be separate from everything, it's still just one with all. And the underlying thing that it has in common is that it's just the paper. So when you stop trying to change who you think you are and just remember that you are the big S, which we're going to get into what the big S is, the small s changes through grace, changes through something much bigger than yourself. I think this is a Bible scripture. I'm not sure. I've heard this. It's like, I myself alone do nothing. It's the God within me that does everything. You alone do nothing. And I know it seems like it because you feel like, oh, well, I make the decision to click on this video and watch it. Oh, I'm going to make the decision and turn it off if I want to. I'm going to make the decision to stand up and walk over there. If I want to lift my left hand, I'm going to lift my left hand. You have no idea where your decisions come from. All your decisions come from, and you can try to think about it. You can say, well, I did this because of this. Well, why did you do that? Because of this. It's just your decisions go so far back that you have no idea why you're doing what you're doing now. Which is why, if it could be different, it would be different. Which is why there's only so much that you can do. It's the God within you that does everything. It's I am that does everything. You do 20%. And that 20% is really about breaking down the blockages that keep you from recognizing that you are just the big S. So I know we've been talking about the big S, the big S. What exactly is the big S? The big S is what you refer to when you say I am. The big S is awareness. It is simply perceiving. It is observing. And that is always who you are. Because would you say that you have always been yourself, right? If I say, have you always been yourself? Maybe you would say, well, can you give me some more context? But by that, I mean, have you always just known your experience? Because that's who you are. You are the knower. So have you always known your experience? The knower is who you truly are. What you know or what you perceive shifts. So when you were 5, you looked completely different than you do now. When you were 15, you look completely different than you do now. When you were 21, you look completely different than you do now. I don't know how old some of you are, but however old you are, you can't say that the image that you see in the mirror is you, because you are consistent. What you see is going to forever shift. Your thoughts are going to forever shift. Your habits are going to forever shift. But the one that's perceiving, that has always been the same. So that must be who you are. Yet, So many of you are only identifying with what changes. And then you wonder why your emotions are in a constant flux. Because if you are identified with what is constantly changing, of course your emotions are going to constantly change. And of course you're going to feel dragged down by them because you think that's who you are. But I'm here to tell you that that's not who you are, my love. You are the observer. That's it. And what you're observing in terms of your experience is just one limited expression of consciousness. And you're claiming it as yours. I am this body. I am whatever your name is. Completely disregarding the I am and just resting with whatever is coming after it. And this is why you're having a hard time shifting your self-concept. Because you're trying to change what's coming after the I am. And I know you hear that all the time, right? What are you saying I am to? People stress this in the self-development world, in the spiritual world. And I get it. It makes sense. But we're going deeper because obviously this has not been working for you. You've been saying I am the most wealthiest version of myself. I am the most worthy version of myself. I get what I want. You say all the wonderful affirmations. And what's came about? Not much. What else have you? Oh, you've gotten readings and people telling you your future, telling you what's going on. You take it to heart. Oh yes, this is so true. Yes, yes, yes. And then what happens? You get back entangled into the way things are. You've even taken psychedelics. Maybe even ayahuasca. Maybe even I can't think of the other one. But you've taken these trips. You've expanded your mind. You've seen the truth. But then what happens? You come back. You come back into the constricted identity of being the small self. So now you got to figure out, how can I work on this small self to stay in this elevated state, to stay in this truth so that I can get my desires. Because I know that if I don't change my concept of myself, I'm not going to get what I want. Because if I have the concept of being someone who's struggling financially, someone who has a difficult time in relationships, someone who struggles with my health, if that is my concept of myself, then that is the reality I'm going to experience. So I must change this self. And I'm telling you, no, you will not. You must not change that self. You let that self do what it does. You identify with who you truly are, and then you allow grace to change the self. Doesn't that take so much weight off your shoulders to know that you don't have to do this alone? That you are not doing it. It is doing you, in fact. You are simply observing it happen. Which is why you don't create reality. Reality is done. It's done. What you desire, it's already done, and it's waiting for you to align with it. But you don't align with it by changing your thoughts and changing your behaviors and changing your habits. Okay, yes, you do. But that's so small of what the work involves. Most of the work is just by remembering who you truly are. Because I know people that do the work. They do it well and they get results, but they still don't feel satisfied. Because they're still so identified with the small self. And the small self, by definition, has no choice but to be limited to whatever it is appearing as. The body is limited to the laws of whatever it's appearing on. But I am is limited by nothing. Because I am is simply what the experience is appearing in. I was driving the other day and it hit me. As I'm driving, it seemed as if I'm driving in time, in space, right? I'm here. It seems as if my hand is moving through time and space. And I was like, oh, it seems like I'm traveling. But what's really happening is traveling is happening in me. I don't move. I am is stationary. It doesn't move. It just is. It just is. Experience is moving through me. I am not moving through experience. That is who you truly are. You are moving through time. Time and space is moving through you. You are not moving through time and space. But you can only see this when you start to identify more with the big S, which is you are always the big S. You just identify more with the body and the mind because it calls more of your attention. You constantly have thoughts. There's different things happening in the body. You use the body so much that it's very easy to think that you are only that. And I'm going to show you and tell you how to go beyond this limited surface in a minute. But for now, I want you to just contemplate on your experience and see how much your suffering comes from being identified with something so limited like who you think you are. Imagine if the wave only thought it was the wave and not the ocean. It would probably feel very scary. It would probably feel very isolated. Even though it's a part of the ocean, it just has a different form when it becomes a wave. But it's still the ocean. It's very much the vast ocean. That is what you are. You are the wave, forgetting that you are the ocean. Sit with that. Really sit with that. Imagine if the wave wanted to change its concept of itself. Like, oh, I got to change my beliefs about who I am. So, and all the wave wants to do is to become the ocean. Because that's all your desires are leading you back to the point of remembering that you are the all. Because all your desires are about feeling whole, at peace, enough, loved, worthy. Everything that you want. The underlying feeling is one of those. Abundant. Enjoy. So imagine the wave said, oh my God, I want to get to this feeling. So I need to like change my beliefs. I got to change, my behaviors. Maybe if I like jump like this or jump underneath, then I'll be able to become like, I'll be able to feel as if I'm one with the ocean. When all it has to do is remember that it was never separate. All it has to do is remember that it's just taking a form, but it's composed out of everything that the ocean is. And from there, the thoughts that get signaled are much different because the thoughts aren't coming from separation. The thoughts are coming from the remembrance of itself as wholeness. Which is why when you changing your concept of yourself, it has nothing to do with changing your thoughts. I've made a ton of videos about this because I'm not with this like changing your thoughts. Oh, you gotta change your thoughts to change your world, even though that's been repeated time and time again. But that's because people were operating in lower states of consciousness. They were operating in states of consciousness that was promoting separation. When now it's very clearly seen through direct experience, and we're gonna go into a practice, that separation is an illusion. Are these even though these papers are different colors, are they actually separate? No. That's the illusion. Even if you keep ripping them apart, they are still made out of the same substance. There is no separation. There's zero separation. And let's say that these papers never even had thoughts. Like let's say there were no thoughts like, oh, I'm a purple paper and I'm a blue paper. They would have no way of knowing that they were not separate. The only reason why we think about separation is because we think about time and space, because we live in this three-dimensional world where there is time and space. But if we had no conception of time and space, we would have no idea that you were over there and I'm over here. It would just be experiencing itself. With no way of knowing where it begins and ends. It would have no way of knowing. But because we think, we have created the illusion of separation. And because we think, we believe that it's our job to change our thoughts so that we can change our world. That's just not the case. You change what you identify as. When you change what you identify as, the thoughts that are being signaled to you changes because your frequency changes. Just like a radio frequency. When you change the dial, you get something else in. Because the frequency is now in tune and it is a vibrational match for what is going to be coming in through the lines. The same thing goes with you. When you change your frequency, by changing what you are identifying as, you start to get signaled different thoughts. And those thoughts are going to lead you to your desires. It's going to be a exact replica of your desires because, again, underlying all of your desires are these feelings of enough, worthiness, love, wholeness, joy, peace, abundance. Think of any desire you have right now, and I'm telling you that one of those feelings are going to be associated with what you want, because that's what you actually want. You actually want to feel what you believe these desires are going to bring you. You don't actually care about the desire itself. Because if you care about the desire itself and you don't care about how you feel, that's because you're still operating in separation, and you care about how others are going to perceive you when you have this desire, which again has to still do with feeling. Because if others perceive you in a certain way, that means that you're worthy. If none of these things were important, if you didn't care about how others perceived you, I'm telling you right now, you would not want a lot of the things that you want. The only reason why you care about how they perceive you is because of how it makes you feel. Everything comes back to how you feel. So if you could just simply embody the state where all feelings are available to you now, you would not care what you see. And because you don't care what you see, that's detachment. What you want just floods in. It floods in because you're a vibrational match for it. So let's talk about how to recognize yourself as this. Now, we already asked you, and I asked this in a lot of my videos. We go into a bit of a satsang about seeing yourself as like awareness, seeing yourself as I am, seeing yourself as the observer, as the perceiver, as consciousness. I say all these words interchangeably. They all mean the same thing. What you perceive cannot be who you are, again, because it changes. So you must be the perceiver. But you cannot perceive who you are. You can only be it. So that's clue number one when it comes to resting in this, is that everything you see, and remember this, and I want you to come back to this video if things aren't clicking right now and you're like, this is making sense a little bit, but some of these things are going over my head. I'm going to give you tips about how to navigate through the world for the next week, and then come back to this video next week and then listen to it, and I'm telling you, it's going to sound completely different. It's going to sound different because you're shifting in consciousness, because you're shifting in identity. So right now it may sound a little wonky. If you are not familiar with non-duality, it may sound a little wonky. If you are not super familiar with metaphysics, is going to sound a little wonky. Or even if you are familiar but you haven't had direct experience with knowing yourself as simply the awareness, it's going to sound wonky. But once you have the experience, it's like trying to explain water, or trying to explain like what wet feels like to somebody that's never experienced water. Like how do you explain wetness, like the feeling of being wet, to somebody that's never experienced water? You could talk about it like, oh, it's like this sensation that you feel on your skin, and it feels like fluid. Then think about, like, you could say all the words, but it's still not going to be the same experience as somebody actually putting their hand in water and getting wet. That's the same thing with me talking about the fact that you are just I am, and you are consciousness, the observer, awareness. I could say all the words, but we know this, right? The finger pointing towards the moon is not the moon. So until you have this experience, which we're going to go through a practice now, my words may seem a bit jumbled. But I do believe that after this exercise, it will be very clear to you that you are simply the observer. So I want you to take a deep breath. Exhale it out. And I want you to think about what is it, take your attention to what is it that's aware of this video. What is it that's perceiving right now? What color is it? What is its shape? What form does it take? Is it liquid, solid, gas? What form does it take? Did I say the weight? How much does it weigh? Is it heavy, light? Is it big, small? What is the qualities of this perceiver that you are using to view me right now? What are the qualities of this perceiver? I'm gonna give you some time, because this is not just like more knowledge for you. I'm not here to give you knowledge. I'm here to take it away. In Sanskrit, they have this word neti neti. Not this, not this. Not this, not that. That's the only way to know what you truly are, is by negating what you're not. Because as long as you think that you are just the body and the mind, you're going to miss it. So when you contemplate on the qualities, and this is also self-inquiry, which if you join the Beyond Collective, you get access to the self-inquiry guide. I used to sell it for $7, but now I'm just including it inside of the Beyond Collective. Beyond Collective is $47 a month, where we have a weekly group coaching calls where we talk about how to get you to your desired reality by changing your self-concept, by identifying as what you truly are. So I've gave you some time to think about the shape and the qualities of awareness, of being the observer. And if you're honest and you're going to direct experience, you realize that the mind cannot put what you actually are in a box. It just can't. Because as soon as you put it in a box, it's perceivable. And I'm saying that what is it that's even perceiving what you're putting in a box? I'm asking you to just keep going back. Anything that you perceive, you have to recognize that there's still something that's perceiving it. What is it that's perceiving it? This is a quote from Moorish Science Temple of America. And Prophet, what's his name? Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Moorish Temple. My best friend, she's a Moor. And I used to go to the temple a lot. And something that they have that's within their Quran, the temple's Quran. You know, it says like the finite mind cannot understand the infinite. You cannot understand the infinite with the finite mind. So anything that you are going to do to try to see into your true nature, you're always going to come up short. Because you're already it. You are what you are looking for. Does that jolt you? That is your true nature. This is what you identify as from now on. As you identify as this from now on, which is unspeakable. Anything I say about it is not it, because it's putting it in a box. God cannot be put in a box. God cannot put any limitations, or you cannot put any words on God. Even to say it's God is blasphemy. People talk about to claim that you are God is blasphemy. To think that you know God is blasphemy. Because God is unknowable. You can only be God and express yourself using God's characteristics and traits. That is the highest praise, is to take on the characteristics of the Creator, which is just the self. But we won't go that far. But that is who you truly are. But you still contemplate and you're not contemplating in order to realize this truth. You're contemplating in order to neti, not this, not that, to remove all the barriers, because any thought that comes up or any idea that you have about awareness, consciousness, being the observer, being the perceiver, it instantly gets shut down because you're perceiving that thought. So it cannot be perceived. So you constantly are just like cutting down all of these veils between you and the truth. And you're always the truth. It's just so many veils that are up. So throughout your day, I want you to have a practice of recognizing that all is the self. That anything that you look at, remember that underneath, it's just the paper. It's exactly what you are. Anything that you look at, this microphone is me. It's made out of the same things as I am. I am you. I'm made out of the same thing as you are. It's just your thoughts that are creating that separation. And just see very clearly. And like do experiments, when you finish watching this video, look at an object that's like a few feet away from you and ask yourself, what is the distance between me and this object? What is the difference? Actually, don't go to the distance yet. But what's the difference between me and this object? Go directly to experience, not to what your mind is saying. Because your mind will say, well, the object is over there. The object feels like this. The object doesn't think. If I hit myself, the object won't feel it. If I hit the object, I won't feel it. That's all thinking. Just go directly to experience. All you know about reality is your experience of it. Your direct experience of it. And then the thoughts are just the layer that's creating your personal reality. And that's creating your self-concept. But you shift your self-concept by shifting what you are identifying as. And just staying in the I am. Just staying in witnessing, observing, which is through mindfulness. Being very mindful. What I like to do is like everything that I do, I like to place my full attention on it and not in the narrations about what I'm doing. And it's simply observing the narrations. Because again, we are not thinking thoughts. We are receiving thoughts. So when I realize that I am just a receiver, I am just a perceiver, I'm just perceiving everything that's coming in. But it's not me. Neti. The only thing I know for sure is that I'm aware. And from there, your self-concept will shift. So I really hope that I was able to create some for a lot of you to get out of this trying to change the self, the limited self. Let the limited self do what it do, right? You do what you can. That's it. You do what you can, and you don't feel any type of shame around it. Oh man, I wanted to talk about that because that's the reason why most people really don't shift in their reality is because they're trying to change themselves, and because they always fall short because there's only so much that they can do. They experience shame, and that shame keeps them in this spiral of like, oh, let me try, I'm not good enough. Let me try, I'm not good enough. Or just forget it. Let me try, I'm not good enough. Or just forget it. And it's this shame spiral. But when you recognize that the self is doing the best that it can, you start to raise up in your level of consciousness, and then the small self starts to align with this truth. But the reason why the small self can't align with this truth is because you're in the way. Thinking that you know best and that you can actually do something to bring about a change. Nothing happens to you. It all happens through you. But that's all I got. Make sure you guys join the Beyond Collective. And I'm also taking one-on-one clients right now for my 3-month program. So if that is something that you are interested in, sign up for a call down below and we can chat. But other than that, that's all I got. We appear like this, but we are just the paper. I love you guys. Bye. Oh yeah, follow me on Instagram. Bye.